Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 167 based on novel. So let's start. Strength can only reach 9-star dual saint. But why? Hearing Gyuyu's words, Xiao Yan couldn't help but change his face. He was surprised. Gyuyu didn't say that this return to source formula could make the cultivator's strength reach Yuanzuan. How could he become a 9-star dual saint again in a twinkling of an eye? What's the hurry, you boy? I haven't finished yet. Gyuyu smiled and joked, then the old face looked positive and continued. I just said that Gyuanju can make the cultivator's strength reach Yuanzuan. This is indeed true. However, I also said that the volume of Gyuanju cultivated by your ancestors can only make his strength reach the 9-star dual saint at most. Xiao Yang was stunned. Is it possible that Guiyuan will still be high and low? Xiao Yang's mind had just raised such an idea, and the Bonyu on one side immediately opened his mouth. As far as I know, Gyuanju is divided into 3 volumes. That's true. Xiao Yang was stunned. The muscles at the corners of his mouth couldn't help twitching. Unexpectedly, he really had such an outrageous skill. The first volume of Gyuanju can raise the cultivator's strength to the level of fighting saint. There is no bottleneck before reaching the 9-star fighting saint. What? As soon as he said this, Xiao Yang was shocked. The skill that can eliminate the bottleneck was aimed at this point. It was determined by the source, which can be called terror. As we all know, the so-called road of cultivation is hard and arduous, and it is not easy to cultivate. I don't know how many people who are full of ambition and pay have finally stagnated because of some bottlenecks on the road of cultivation. The original Great Cultivation qualification has ended because they can't break through their own cultivation bottleneck. Finally, the former cultivation genius can only vanish in the public. There will never be a shortage of people who have become wastewood from genius. For example, Xiao Yang in those days, or Baizhan who once competed with him today. Of course, the latter naturally pretends, but even so, they can't get rid of the eyes of secular people. The bottleneck of cultivation can be said to be a fence that hinders countless people in the way of the strong. If you rush open, the future will be a smooth road. On the contrary, you will be imprisoned on the other side of the fence forever and can only become a foil for others in your life. But now, in the Guiyuan formula, practitioners can actually avoid all kinds of bottlenecks on the road of cultivation. Doesn't this mean that as long as they practice the Guiyuan formula, even those with poor cultivation talents can become strong at once? Who doesn't want to become Jackie Chan, and who doesn't want to be a peerless strong man, famous everywhere and respected by the world? And that's why so many strong people on the mainland are crazy about this formula. Don't be happy too early. This is indeed the reason why Guiyuanju is crazy for the world, but it's not so easy to become a strong man. Even if it's Guiyuanju, it can't be without bottlenecks. When Xiao Yang was shocked by the horror of Guiyuanju, Guyo poured a basin of cold water on Xiao Yang's head and pulled Xiao Yang out of the imaginary moment. As I said just now, the Guiyuan formula is divided into 3 volumes. Each volume has its own advantages, but if you want to really improve your accomplishments to Yuanzuan with the help of Guiyuan formula, you still need the mutual cooperation of these 3 volumes. Volume I can help cultivators improve their strength to 9-star dual saint, just like your ancestors. However, 9-star dual saint is already the limit of volume 1. If you want to break through this shackle, you must practice volume 2 again. Similarly, the second volume can only enhance the strength of the cultivator to the source realm. If you want to make a breakthrough, you must practice the third volume. The connection between each volume, that is, the half-emperor and the source king, and the source holy realm after the source sun, after practicing the source formula, the time and difficulty required to break through these 3 realms will be the number of ordinary people more than times, but even so, it can't cover up the fact that Guiyuanju is powerful. I've heard that as early as 1,000 years ago, a person accidentally got a complete set of this volume of Kung Fu, so that in a short span of 100 years, he suddenly became a peerless strong man on the mainland. Even in the original era, few people can compare his strength. It can be imagined how terrible this Guiyuan formula is. In the end, Rao's heart is quiet, and his old face can't help showing a look of horror. It can be imagined that with 100 years, he has become a peerless strong man in the amazing mainland. How can this not be moving? 100 years seems like a long time, but in the eyes of those who practice, they just blink, thinking about the 4 major gates in the western regions, their patriarch, who hasn't achieved their present achievements after hundreds of years of practice. On the contrary, if you compare the two, it's like this group of people are sleeping all their life. Mutter. Xiao Yan's throat rolls slightly, and the latter has revealed this appearance. Naturally, he is not much better. Until after the good film is engraved, Xiao Yan gradually takes back his mind and looks back on the scroll in his hand. After a while, Xiao Yan actually feels that this fragmented scroll has become much heavier. If it's really like what the bones said, the remnant in his hand at the moment is related to the strength of Xiao Xian after his resurrection. In the face of Xiao Xian, Xiao Yang doesn't dare to be careless at any point. Jiyu Lao, can you see which part of this fragmented script is Guyuanju? Xiao Yang raised his eyes, turned to one side of Guyo and asked curiously. Although there are many words on this remnant volume, Xiao Yang can't understand any of these ancient and strange things. How can he tell which volume this is? This. I don't understand. I can only see if you have the chance to find the rest of the fragments. From this small piece alone, I can't see anything. If the jade bottle hadn't changed at the auction, I wouldn't think it was the source returning formula. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, Jiyu shrugged helplessly. Seeing this, Xiao Yang couldn't help feeling a burst of chagrin. Helpless, he had to take care of it for the time being. As for the remaining fragments that Jiyu said, Xiao Yang will naturally take a chance. After all, it's about the ancestor Xiao Xian. Back to his mind, Xiao Yang's eyes looked at the jade bottle tightly held in his right hand, and a smile appeared on his face. Ancestors, you wait. As long as I have collected enough soul origin, I will help you repair your soul first. Then, Xiao Yang turned his back, and at the same time, got up and went outside the cave. But at the moment Xiao Yang received the jade bottle into the ring, there was a faint light in the jade bottle, so that Xiao Yang didn't find it. 3 days later, at the top of the Shaolin Mountains, a black-robed figure stood impressively. Facing the cold wind, Xiao Yang stood with his hands down and let the cold wind blow his black robe. A pair of painted black eyes looked far into the southern sky. At the end of his line of sight, there was a vast white world. Vaguely, he could see the outline of some mountains. On the back of the high mountain is the hinterland of Shaolin. Feeling the cold wind coming, Xiao Yang couldn't help frowning slightly. Has the cold wind invaded here? Xiao Yang said that nature is the cold wind in the hinterland of Shaolin. Although the east wall has been sealed, the cold current has crossed the high mountains and spread all the way to Shaolin Mountains. There is already a large area of mountain forests covered with ice and snow. Yes, the cold wind there is getting stronger and stronger, and the adult's injury has not recovered. After all these years, no one knows what will happen here. In the void on one side, the shape of the skyhawk slowly appeared. His eyes were also looking at the southern sky, and he couldn't help showing a worried look in his eyes. They were born and raised here. They were destined to stay and protect Shaolin Mountains in this life, but they didn't want to see the mountains finally destroyed. Whether it is occupied by humans or submerged by the cold wind, the blow to Shaolin Mountains is devastating. Is there no way to solve the cold wind? Xiao Yang's eyebrows almost twisted. Those cold currents spread from the ground. Blindly blocking them is not a long-term plan after all. Once those cold currents rush out of the earth again, Shaolin mountain range will become purgatory on earth. Ordinary semi-emperor strong people can't have a chance to survive under the cold current. Looking at today's Shaolin Mountains, except for the cold frost, only Tianying is the strongest. Even the 3 of them are not sure of the cold current they can cope with, let alone others. Before the adult was injured, she had been forced to suppress those cold currents with her strength, which prevented them from spreading to the whole mountain range. However, since the adult was injured, her ability to suppress those cold currents became weaker and weaker. Until a few years ago, the adult was no longer able to suppress those cold currents, so she had to let them spread. Fortunately, there was a gable to resist them. However, since the last incident, the gable cannot resist for long. It is precisely because of this that great talents are so in urgent need of returning to Bodhisattva. The Sky Eagle looked heavy and shook his head. His words also let Xiao Yang know another reason why Lung Bingshuang cares about Huibadan so much. As the master of Shalin mountain range, everything here needs her to guard. Xiao Yang took a deep breath, nodded slightly, turned his head to the eagle and said, "Brother Tianying, please clear the nearby mountains for me." When the latter heard the speech, he looked stunned and said in doubt, "Brother Xiao Yang, are you? I think it's time to refine back to Bodhisattva." Xiao Yang chuckled. Without saying a word, he sat down on the top of the mountain, waved his big hand, flashed along with a brilliance, and then a huge green-gold medicine tripod fell in front of Xiao Yang like a hill. And it was not until this time that the Tianying on the side came back to his senses. The surprised color on his face suddenly appeared, nodded heavily, and his body flashed, and then disappeared over the top of the mountain. Soon, in the depths of Shalin mountain range and the territory of Tianying III, all warcraft retreated quickly towards the periphery of Shalin mountain range as if they had received orders. In a short time, in this mountain range, there are only Xiao Yang, the three brothers of Tianying and a Bao. On a mountain peak, the three eagles and a Bao stand here. The four men raised their eyes and stared at the mountain peak where Xiao Yang was. Their eyes looked different. On the top of the mountain, Xiao Yang sat down, his eyes closed slowly, his breath between his nose gradually became symmetrical, threw all the thoughts in his mind out of his head, and his heart gradually returned to peace. A moment later, Xiao Yang's body was not moving, and the medicine tripod in front of him fell heavily on the mountain. Within 100 feet of Xiao Yang's body, it seemed to form a special area, like an invisible wall. Whenever the cold wind invaded here, it would automatically spread to both sides. Xiao Yang's body was motionless. The whole person was like an old monk. All his thoughts were abandoned by Xiao Yang. There was a blank in his mind. The whole person entered an ethereal state. He couldn't hear any sound between heaven and earth or feel any movement. In this way, Xiao Yang sat around for 2 hours. Until 2 hours later, at a certain moment, Xiao Yang on the top of the mountain slowly breathed out a breath, his dark and deep eyes slowly opened, the waves were not startled, like a deep pool of water, he could not see through or see clearly. In his mind, his thoughts turned. At this moment, the prescription of Hui Bodhisattva and the medicinal properties of various herbs appeared clearly in Xiao Yang's mind as if he had turned a book. Every step and detail were repeatedly formed in Xiao Yang's mind. Invisibly, a refined Hui Bodhisattva seemed to have appeared in Xiao Yang's mind. This sitting is another hour. The setting sun is like residual blood, a bright red. From a distance, you can see a red sun like a huge fireball. The red clouds scattered under the scarlet red sun, as if they were hot. It looks like a large flame burning in the sky, as if it is boiling, and as if it is about to go out. Poof! The mountain peak in the distance is like a giant beast that eats the sky, swallowing less than half of the red sun, and the setting sun is more gorgeous. At the same time, Xiao Yang on the top of the mountain has put a medicine tripod in front of him for a day, and the flames of the waves burst into flames. The gorgeous flame emits a brilliant light like the sun. The terrible high temperature is isolated by enough medicine tripods. The whole mountain range becomes bright at one time. Even if the red sun is in the sky, I'm afraid it can't be compared with this brilliance. That is, at the moment when the flame rises, on the other side, on the mountain in the distance, the four people sitting with their eyes closed suddenly opened their eyes. As soon as their eyes brightened, their hearts were also relaxed. This guy is finally going to start alchemy. The burning lion grinned, and the big stone hanging in his heart finally fell half. For this scene, he waited all day, but he didn't think of it. Until now, Xiao Yang just released his flame. On the moon, the treetops are unconscious, and night has fallen. At the top of the cliff, Xiao Yang sat in front of the huge green and golden medicine tripod. In the void around him, hundreds of precious medicinal materials were floating in the air, surrounded by Xiao Yang in a ring. The blazing flame was burning in the medicine tripod. Xiao Yangjing took control of several medicinal materials and put them into the medicine tripod. Under the refining of different fire, the original green and bright medicinal materials gradually changed color. Of course, This change was so subtle that even ordinary people could not find it. Only the herbalist, with his huge soul perception, only then can I see it clearly in my mind. The refining process of medicinal materials is long and boring, which needs to test the patience of the pharmacist and his understanding of medicinal materials. The refining degree of each medicinal material determines the final refining result, which is directly related to the refining result of the final pill. The quality of finished pills is not only the integration of medicinal materials in the later stage and the refining in the early stage, but also plays a vital role. The refining purity of medicinal materials is related to the quality of the pill itself, and the refining degree is related to the quantity of finished pills. If more refined medicinal materials are refined, the quantity of refined pills will naturally be more. On the contrary, there is nothing left. Half a month has passed. It is said that there is no time for cultivation, but there is not much difference in looking at this medicine refining. In the end, it takes a lot of time to complete it. The so-called gain must lose. In a sense, medicine refining itself is also a merger of gain and loss, and cultivation is even more so. In the green and golden medicine tripod, the blazing flame was burning unchanged. Xiao Yan's eyes were closed. For half a month, Xiao Yan didn't feel a trace of fatigue. On the contrary, under this continuous refining, he felt that his mind became more calm. Tianying and a Bao watched in the distance from time to time. Under the dignity of the three people, no warcraft dared to step here. Those high-level warcraft that originally inhabited in the depths of Shilin mountain range also retreated to the periphery of Shilin mountain range. This event could not help but make all warcraft in Shilin mountain range change color. People outside the mountain range, also confused about this. Damn it, what's going on in Shilin mountain? How come these high-level warcraft have come here? 8-star and half-emperor level warcraft. This powerful guy should live in the depths of the mountain and practice in isolation. How can he appear here? At the periphery of Shilin mountain range, a group of people looked at the vast mountain range in front of them with surprise or panic. They could not imagine why these high-level warcraft in the depths of Shilin mountain range would appear here. What they could not imagine was that these warcraft existed for a human. This situation lasted for a long time. Beyond the Shilin mountains, many strong people who originally planned to go into the mountains to experience were finally shocked back by these powerful warcraft in the periphery. For a moment, the Shilin mountains became a forbidden area. In the twinkling of an eye, it was another half-month. Time passed quickly and unconsciously. The medicinal materials in the medicine tripod in front of Xiao Yan had been basically refined into various states, such as powder, mucus, or some liquids and plasters with different colors, with a total of more than 100 kinds. On the top of the mountain, Xiao Yan sat motionless, and the whole person was like a sculpture. Among the medicine tripods in front of him, hundreds of refined medicinal materials were slowly integrated under the control of different fire. If the medicinal properties collide, the medicinal materials will be neutralized. If the medicinal properties coincide, the medicinal materials with violent properties will be integrated. The fusion process of medicinal materials is slow and long. Xiao Yan spent a full week in this step alone. Among the hot drugs filled with different fires, the essence of a medicinal herb with a thumb's size is spinning around the package of different fires. With the injection of Xiao Yan's soul power, these medicinal herbs are approaching at a very slow speed, touching instantly, with unyielding energy fluctuation coming out of it, and the surrounding flames are dispelled. The two potions are like two violent warcraft. No one wants to show weakness. It's hard to integrate them together. Even with Xiao Yan's soul power, my heart can't help feeling a trouble. The fruit is worthy of being a medicinal material for refining third-order pills. This powerful energy fluctuation is not comparable to those second-order pills at all, but fortunately, although Xiao Yan spent a lot of energy in this process, in the end, under Xiao Yan's powerful soul power, the two groups of liquid medicine still slowly merged together. However, this is only the beginning. After that, but there are still many medicinal liquids that have not been fused. After Xiao Yan has fused all these medicinal herbs, it has been half a month again. However, when all this seemed to be gradually on the right track, the The medicinal materials that were about to officially enter the process of melting pills in the medicine tripod suddenly turned into a pile of ashes in the medicine tripod at a certain moment. The sudden appearance of this scene made everything Xiao Yang had done in the past suddenly come to naught. The whole person was in a trance for a moment, but fortunately, Xiao Yang recovered from it for a long time. The failure of refining medicine is just like a routine for a pharmacist. It's just failure. It's a big deal. I'm afraid that if I fail once, I won't have the courage to face it again. This is pity. The first failure did not leave much complex emotion in Xiao Yang's heart. On the contrary, it made Xiao Yang more quickly and quickly for the next second refining process, and everything became flowing. Even if it was important to refine the third-order pill, Xiao Yang did not hesitate. In this way, after more than 2 months, Xiao Yang was in the medicine tripod. The second batch of medicinal materials officially entered the process of melting pills. This process is the last step of melting pills after the first separation and fusion of various previously refined herbs. As long as this step is passed, it is the process of condensing pills and pregnant pills. This step is the most critical and important moment in the whole refining process. It can be said that the success of this step is directly related to the pill itself. If it is successful, the pill is expected to be valuable. If it fails, it will turn into a pile of black ash and worthless. Until now, there was a little cold sweat flowing down Xiao Yang's forehead. In a twinkling of an eye, it has been 5 months since Xiao Yang began refining Huibiden. In 5 months, the refining of Huibiden failed once. With the second pair of medicinal materials, now, Xiao Yang has only one of the 3 pairs of medicinal materials used to refine Huibiden. That is to say, from now on, the Huibiden refined by Xiao Yang has only one chance of failure. With the first failure, Xiao Yang became more cautious this time. Xiao Yang tried his best to eliminate all kinds of small errors in the previous refining. Although there were some small changes during this period, fortunately, it had no impact on the formal process of melting pills. Who? At the top of the cliff, Xiao Yang's sculptural body trembled slightly. His eyes closed for months finally opened again. He breathed a long breath in his mouth. The huge stone hanging in Xiao Yang's heart finally dropped a little. The long and difficult process of melting pills was finally completed after more than a month of hard persistence. Fortunately, Xiao Yang didn't have any accidents this time. Maybe it's because his soul power is stronger than that of the ordinary third-level herbalist. However, Xiao Yang prefers luck. He always thinks it's good luck, so he can get through this level safely. In Xiao Yang's words, it was just a fluke. Although the process of melting pills has ended, Xiao Yang's face has turned pale at this time. Although he has become a third-order herbalist, it is so easy to refine third-order pills. The soul power that needs to be consumed is also an extremely huge amount. Judging from Xiao Yang's soul power now, after he completes refining this Bodhisattva, soul power will also be exhausted. Of course, without the previous failure experience, the state would be much better. Unfortunately, there is no if. After the melting pill is completed, the anti-inflammatory can be relaxed for the time being, but before long, he must concentrate on the next process of condensing pill again. The gorgeous flame in the huge green-gold medicine tripod rises. A group of fist-sized and viscous-looking solution is rotating slowly in the flame. From time to time, it can emit a surge of energy to shake back the surrounding flames a little. Then, those flames will rush up again like hungry wolves. The same scene in the medicine tripod is repeated over and over again. The battle between fire and mucus seems to have no end. Xiao Yang sitting on the top of the mountain doesn't move, and the burning determination skill moves up. Between the surrounding heaven and earth, wisps of heaven and earth energy converge on Xiao Yang like being pulled. At the same time of refining medicine, the consumption of fighting spirit is also expensive. In order to refine those medicinal materials with special materials as soon as possible, Xiao Yang had to spend more fighting spirit to enhance the power of different fire. His long-term output and calming body can't bear it. He can support it with the power of 6 stars and a half emperors. Up to now, he has been very good. Xiao Yang did not sit for 3 days. Outside, the original 3 king beasts of Shilin mountain range have now added a leopard, which will more or less make Tianying 3 people have emotional resistance. But since this person was brought by Xiao Yang, they naturally don't say much. Although they see him on weekdays, they are also kind, but invisible, they are separated from him. Isolated by these 3 people, our Bao's heart is also quite helpless. He can't go back to his original hometown, but there is no place for him in the Shaolin Mountains, which makes him don't know where to go. He can only hope on Xiao Yang. The latter is powerful. Since he can bring him here, he naturally has his intention. On the other side of the sky Eagle 3 people, in fact, they don't know how to treat a Bao. When talking about friends with him, we can say that we don't know each other, let alone any general friends. Although the latter has some relationship with Xiao Yang, by contrast, the 3 of them know each other earlier, and they are friends of life and death. This leopard is really too strange. Boss, do you think this guy won't use any crooked ideas? He has been on that mountain since 2 months ago. He stares at Xiao Yang day and night. Who knows if there will be anything good? On a mountain peak, Yang Lion frowned and stared at a leopard standing on a mountain close to Xiao Yang in the distance. His eyes couldn't help showing a worried look. For them, a leopard is always an outsider. No one knows what he is thinking. Once he has a bad mind for Xiao Yang, even if the 3 of them look at him, it is extremely dangerous. Let's have a look first. Don't jump to a conclusion. If it's all right, it's all right. But if it's something, we can't let him leave alive. We'll keep an eye on him in the future and be careful what he shouldn't do. Smelling the speech, Tianying could not help frowning. How could she not know the meaning of Yang Shi's words? But after all, this man was brought back by Xiao Yang. Since the latter chose to believe, he naturally had no reason to doubt. Of course, this was only effective under the premise that Xiao Yang looked at him. Since he can obediently follow Xiao Yang back, he should also know that Xiao Yang's combat power is far from ordinary. What makes Tianying doubt is that the reason why this guy can be obedient is just afraid of Xiao Yang's strength. Once the latter has an accident, he may be in trouble. There was a secret way in his heart. The eagle turned his eyes and looked at Xiao Yang, who was sitting on the top of the mountains at this time. He couldn't help worrying a little. What he worried about was not whether Hui Bodhisattva could be successfully refined, but whether Xiao Yang would be hurt. This is something he will never tolerate and he will never let it happen. Looking back, I was looking at Xiao Yang. It took 3 days to recover. Although the effect is not so ideal, it is no problem if it is used to maintain refining pills. After this link of melting pills, the next step is to condense pills. The so-called condensation pill is to further integrate the irregular drug power to make the pill really take shape, and the internal drug power of the pill should also be completely integrated into one. This is the real condensation pill. The final result of the pill is that the pill is round and the fragrance of the pill is exposed to show that the medicine is solidified. It can really be called a pill. As for pregnant pill, it is a process of sublimation of the quality of pill itself. This process completely depends on the understanding of drug refining by the herbalist, which tests the level of the herbalist in all aspects of drug refining. Finally, the quality of pill also indicates the level of the herbalist's ability. Compared with Rongdan, the method of condensing Dan seems to be simpler and easier. Of course, it looks easy. These don't mean it's equally simple to do. The process of condensing pills tests the double control of the alchemist over the soul power and the flame, the condensation of the soul power on the pill power, and the temperature of the flame. If there is a minute difference, all previous achievements may be wasted at any time. With the passage of time, the mottled mucus with the size of a fist gradually solidified in the green and golden medicine tripod. Finally, it turned into a pill the size of a longan. From time to time, it sent out a surge of energy and hit the inner wall of the medicine tripod, sending out bursts of sounds like singing. The movement here is naturally seen by Tianying and others. For this, the 3 people are constantly suspicious. They are real laymen for medicine refining. It is really difficult for them to see anything. Therefore, their hearts are both surprised and happy. They look at Xiao Yang, who has been sitting on the top of the mountain for nearly half a year. There was a worried look between the eyebrows. This guy has been sitting there for half a year. I don't know if the pill has been practiced. At the top of the mountain, The burning lion frowned and stared at Xiao Yang, who was hanging in front of the medicine tripod in the distance. His tone was suspicious. "Don't worry about it. How can you and I know about the herbalist? He makes third-order pills. It takes several months to make second-order pills. How can the third-order pills be used less?" The bear on one side just looked as if he had expected, but from his frown, his heart was not as relaxed as he said in his words. "No matter whether the refining is successful or not, we can't easily intervene. We can only wait until he stops. We really can't understand the matter of the herbalist. If he happens to be disturbed by us at the critical moment, we can't afford this responsibility." The Sky Eagle frowned and said in a deep voice. The two people on one side also looked solemn and nodded back to Bodhisattva. "This is a pill refined for cold ice cream. How dare they meddle indiscriminately before ensuring that the pill is refined? Once something happens, even if Xiao Yang doesn't trouble them, cold ice cream will never let them go easily. They know the horror of that woman very well. In addition, don't forget that guy. Keep an eye on him. Xiao Yang has been refining medicine for nearly half a year. I think it's not long before the end. There must be no accident at this time." "I see." Then, the eagle's eyes fell on a bow again. Now, in addition to waiting for Xiao Yang's pill to be refined, they were worried about only a bow. The so-called time is like running water. In a twinkling of an eye, more than half a month has passed. The process of condensing pills is finally completed. On the pills the size of longan, the original uneven surface gradually becomes smooth and mellow in the different fire. At the moment when the condensing pills are completed, a strong smell of pills is emitted from the medicine tripod and from the top of the mountain, gradually diffuse around. This is the smell of Dan incense. Yes, it's definitely the smell of Danxiang. The appearance of the gas of Dan fragrance shows that the refining of Dan medicine has gradually come to an end, and who Bodhisattva is about to become. On the mountain in the distance, the three eagles sensitively smelled the faint smell of Dan fragrance in the air. After a while, they were ecstatic. Once Huibadan was successfully refined, the injury in the cold frost is expected to improve. At that time, the cold current spreading outward in the hinterland of Shalin will also be interrupted. This is undoubtedly a good thing for the whole Shalin Mountains. At the top of the cliff, Xiao Yang sat cross-legged, his eyes closed, his eyebrows frowned, his pale face and drops of bin-sized sweat on his forehead were all stating Xiao Yang's state at the moment. After nearly half a year of long-term alchemy, even the third-order pharmacist, it's time to reach the limit. However, it's finally the most important stage of pregnancy. Yundan, it's important to say it's important, it's not important to say it's not important. The pregnancy pill stage is dispensable. No matter whether Xiao Yang persists or not, Huibadan has been regarded as refining after condensing the pill. Even if it does not go through pregnancy pill, it can also be used. Of course, despite this, the process of Yundan also has its purpose. Yundan can make the refined pill and improve its quality. This step is related to the effectiveness of the pill. As a herbalist, he naturally wants to pursue perfection. Therefore, Xiao Yang did not omit the last step. For this reason, Xiao Yang will control the situation in the medicine tripod no matter what. Whether in terms of soul power or flame temperature, Xiao Yang will keep it in an absolutely stable state. This is not only for Bingling cold liquid, but also to prove his ability as a third-order herbalist. Xiao Yang also wants to understand where his real limit is. Bean's sweat has wet Xiao Yang's clothes. With the passage of time, Xiao Yang's face becomes more and more white. The fighting spirit in his body is still frantically injected into the medicine tripod in front of him. Even if it is not much, Xiao Yang is still squeezing every cell of his body and forcibly asking for energy for the pregnant pill of returning Bodhisattva. In my mind, the black soul bead, at this moment, the light on it is also gradually dim. The original dark color like ink gradually becomes gray. Finally, there are some signs of transparency. Fortunately, the process of condensing pills has ended. The time of pregnant pills doesn't take much effort. In just a few days, pregnant pills have officially ended. What to face next? Boom! In Xiao Yang's medicine cauldron, but at the moment when the refining was completed, The sky above his head suddenly became gloomy, the color of heaven and earth changed, and the thick dark clouds hung above Xiao Yang's head like a huge strange bird, enveloping a large area of mountain forest below. Danrei. Xiao Yang, whose face was very white, took back his eyes from the medicine tripod in front of him, raised his head and looked up at the thunder cloud that was violently churning over the sky. The pale corners of his lips outlined a smile at the moment. In the face of Dan Lei, in other people's eyes, it's terrible like a devil, but in his eyes, it's the best medicine. Beiwang, it's your turn. This video will end here.